Good evening. I'll call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, October 27th, 2025. Amanda, would you please provide a roll call?
Here.
Here. Thank you. Please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tracy, would you please read the school board mission statement?
Sure. Working together to ensure high levels of learning for all.
Thank you. Amanda, with public notice given. Are there any revisions to tonight's published agenda?
Mr. President, I would request to move number 17, number 19, and number 18 to after number 10 in that specific order, please.
I would make a motion that we approve the published agenda with the exception of moving items 17, 19, and 18 in that order behind agenda item 10.
Second.
Motion by Ann, second by Tracy to approve tonight's published agenda with the following revisions, moving items 17, 19, then 18 to follow item 10. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tonight's agenda is approved. We have no request for public input on tonight's published agenda, and we'll move directly into recognition with some student recognition. Really exciting news. Jason, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so we're thrilled tonight to have our girls golf team and also a member of our girls tennis team who recently represented Alaska at the state tournament in a fine fashion. They all played well and did wonderful throughout the season, and again, they represented us just wonderfully at the state tournament. So tonight we'll start off first with Coach Gutnick, and I'll let him introduce who he has with him tonight and talk a little bit, and then after that we'll have Coach Kozda, Coach Jansky come up, and they'll talk about the girls golf team. So Coach, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. My name is Kurt Gutnick, and I am the coach for this lovely lady right here. Her name is Mara Klein, and Mara, she advanced to the state tournament this year. She's a junior and had a wonderful season, like Mr. Terry said, and I was very happy to see her representing our team and our area at the state tournament. She played an opponent in the first round who was just simply better than she was. Mara played a good match. Her opponent just had too many shots and too much skill for Mara to overcome, but she represented the school in a great manner with great sportsmanship and a smile on her face most of the time. I was very happy with her getting to the state meet, and she, like I said, she's just a junior. She's got another year to improve her skills and hopefully get beyond the first round next year. So I'll let Mara talk a little about herself and her postseason experience.
Yes, the season went really well for the whole team, really. We ended up getting second at conference, which was really exciting. For state, I was just very happy that I was able to, that I was invited to go and to just play with that level of other tennis players. So it was just a cool experience, even though it didn't necessarily go the way I wanted it to. I was still very thankful for the opportunity.
And we're very happy for Mara, and as she said, our team did a great job this year as well. And I think it's worth noting that one of the school board members here, Tracy, she played tennis for me, and
I played doubles though because I was too lazy to take the whole court line, so I'm like extra impressed you made it to the state. So.
Right, and also one of the student representative here, Karina Dunn, was also on the team this year too. So we've got a lot of representation for tennis.
Fantastic. always learn something when you're on the court, right? Either in victory or defeat, right? And so hopefully that portends to a different, better experience even next year as a senior.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, yeah. Here. You sit, I'll stay. Brooklyn, come on. I'll just count you. So, we had an absolutely tremendous year this year. We finished pretty much second place in everything that we played in, which is awesome for these girls. Their summertime commitment, their practice, their dedication, their consistency is what got us to the point that we're at today. We've got one first team all-conference with Finley sitting out over there. And then we've got 3 second team all-conference girls here as well. So we went to state after we beat our long-term rival, Toma, at sectionals, which is very satisfying as well. In that state, we finished 8th as a team out of 12 teams, I believe, 75 girls total, which is really.
Yeah, the season as a whole went really well. Placing second in pretty much everything was really cool. I think we worked very hard to get to state, and it was a really cool experience to end off my high school career at the state tournament. It was really fun. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to go.
Honestly, these 4 years of playing golf has been the most incredible thing ever. I started out in JV, and I never would have thought that I would have made it to this level and being able to compete at the state tournament and to grow with these girls and see how much they've improved and to see how much they've worked over the summer and over the course of the season is so impressive, and I'm really excited to see what the 2 future girls have to offer for the upcoming years. Yeah, I'm truly going to miss this team, and I am just so happy that I got to be a part of it.
And I'd have to agree with both of them. I'd definitely say that these girls on this team were probably some of my best friends, and I've built such a good relationship with all 6 or 5 of them that I golfed with this year. And I just thought it was so exciting to be able to go to state and experience that with them.
In a new van as well.
Van was important.
Very important. Well, ladies, this is fantastic. It's a memory that 5 of you will no doubt carry with you the rest of your lives. Just the camaraderie that you built through the process and being able to go out and compete as a team and then reach that state tournament. So very well done. Thank you. I believe we have some donations.
It's my pleasure and honor to be able to recognize, acknowledge, and share our gratitude for the following donations. A $250 Ultra Federal Credit Union for classrooms needs for Irving Perch teacher Stacy Bosingham. And Abby, did he have some commentary?
I did, yes. This donation is actually the product of an Ultra Credit Union member, but then a former student of Miss Bossingham's, and so the parent did write a nomination. We were able to surprise Miss Bossingham in her classroom with her kids present with a massive check, which was really exciting. But the parent just shared that the experience of Mrs. Bossingham has been remarkable, that her impact extends beyond teaching, and she changed the trajectory of her child's life and education by fostering a healthy and nurturing environment, and she should be recognized for the profound difference that she made in his life. So just really great for Mrs. Bossingham, for her classroom, and just acknowledging the support of our community too.
Thank you, Abby. The following $200 for Northern Hills, or from Northern Hills PTO towards the Love and Logic workshops. We'd like to acknowledge and thank them. And lastly, $500 from Mia's Kitchen for the Onalaska Middle School web program. We share our thanks and gratitude and appreciation for those donations.
Always a lot of thanks for any donation that helps to support our mission, support our students, and these are no exception to that. So thank you to all three of those donors. We'll move now into item number 17, which is a donation from the Eagle Bluff Elementary PTO for a walking path.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Witzik. I am the current president of the Eagle Bluff PTO.
I'm Jamie Cranberg, the treasurer.
And we are here today. We have, the last 3 years now, we have changed our fundraising setup, I guess you would say. We have a big event called the Eagle Bluff Rock and Roll, where students raise money, and then during the event, they see how many laps they can walk or run. And through just all these donations over the past couple of years, we have been fortunate to raise, we're going to be donating $37,000 towards Eagle Bluff School for the use of our walking path. And Mr. Sino, our principal, can give you more information about that.
First of all, just a huge thank you to our PTO and for all of our families and their friends and their families and all the people that help support us to do great things. It was hard to believe when we started this that it would actually be something this awesome. And because I thought, okay, we're just going to like go around the parking lot, circles. But you throw in a DJ and you throw in high school kids coming and you throw in just this spirit of the school community. And it really is cool. It's great. And everybody kind of gets behind it. So as we were thinking about, and as Elizabeth said, this has sort of been over a multi-year period here, so they've supported us in other ways too, but we're trying to think about something kind of long-lasting, that would really have an impact in the future. And so this idea of the path is also something, it gives the students something to do at recess. It also kind of helps with the whole site plan in terms of we're keeping all of our field area. We're going to put the path around the outside of it, so students can either walk or run around at recess. Community members can use it as well, and may even have some possibilities and options for the future to add some activity stations. So I think it might be something that even grows as time goes on. So just really, really excited about it. Again, something clearly out of the scope of our site budget. So we're just really, really thankful for our PTO in this donation.
Team, are there any questions? Further comments?
I will make a motion to approve the $37,000 donation from the Eagle Bluff Elementary PTO for a walking path at Eagle Bluff Elementary.
Second.
Motion from Bridget, seconded by Tracy, to approve the donation from the Eagle Bluff PTO in the amount of $37,000 for a walking path at Eagle Bluff Elementary. Any further questions?
When do you guys think you'll build it or install it?
Oh, we got a little excited this fall yet when Dan Dahlquist called me and said, can you come over tomorrow and start? I was like, wait a minute, tomorrow? But anyway, it didn't happen tomorrow. I don't know. We're hoping again this spring.
Oh, okay, I was just curious.
There's a lot going on in the district right now, so
Yeah.
But yeah, we're hoping in the spring and then
Very cool.
get wrapped up for the next school year for sure. So.
Yeah, very impressive.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that donation is graciously received. Thank you very much. Action item number 19. And we welcome Andy Becker.
Got a pretty loud voice, but there we go. Is that good? I teach economics for a social studies component, and if you remember me, I was here talking about Panama, and we did a trip to Costa Rica recently in Panama, and Karina can speak to how cool of experience that was. But when I kind of got into it, you get emails and you get on lists of things, and I started to get emails from different people about a trip to DC. And I just kind of started to think, oh, that'd be kind of a cool thing to offer, because I know we don't now, and I don't know if we ever have as a district offered a trip to DC. So I kind of started to put together a potential plan for what that would look like, just kind of to see if we could get it going. What I came up with was a trip, a 4-day trip, because I know, like, obviously there are schools that like bus to DC and stuff like that. But I found an organization that's very reputable. They've done it for many decades. They were founded on doing a trip to DC, and I kind of want to be conscious of like not being too long, so making a 4-day trip that would be around a weekend, so the kids would only miss 2 days of school. And kids are also super busy at the high school. Obviously, Karina can speak to that. She's in everything and does all sorts of stuff. And so I kind of wanted to be a time of year when it isn't as busy. So like in mid-November was, kind of when we're between sports seasons, because that also affects it. And I just, in general, I've been lucky enough to be out to DC 4 times. And as a social studies teacher, there's just so many awesome things that you can see out there, and really neat connections with what we teach. And so, yeah, I'm proposing like a 4-day trip. It would leave like on a Friday and come back on a Monday. So then it would kind of go around a weekend. So kids would miss just 2 days of school, which is something, but is manageable for a lot of kids. And then it'd be in November. We'd see a ton of the things that there are to see in DC. Hopefully also learn, kind of have things we want to go there to see, like targeted things to see. Like for me, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, teaching economics would be really cool. The cost would be just under $2,000, and it would be proposed to next year's juniors and seniors. That's kind of where I'm thinking to start. And it's a kind of a first-time thing, like a social studies trip during the year. But yeah, that's kind of my proposal in general, but definitely glad to answer questions that you have about it.
How many students do you think you can take for the trip?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we're starting out, I would hope like 20 to 30 would be a number I think that would be gettable. But it's hard to say, because there's obviously other trips that they do. So that's a question that I have too, but I thought 20 to 30 would be a good number.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I went to Costa Rica in February of my junior year with Senior Beckstrom, and I got to spend, I think it was 4 days, living with a host family in Costa Rica. And I got to learn a lot about like the culture and the way of life there, but also about the beautiful scenery, and like about the government there, which is almost the most interesting part about a country, seeing how their government is different than the U.S. And I've actually been to Washington D.C. myself on various 4-H trips, and I can attest to like honestly how life-changing of an experience it is, just seeing like this is my country, this is my government, this is how it works. And I would just say any trip or experience through on Alaska is really special for students, because a lot of them aren't able to go like with their family. I think it would be really cool for students. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I think the depth of the tour probably as well, that it's not just the sites, but discerning governmental differences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we learned a lot in Costa Rica for sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, thank you.
Other questions for Andy?
I'll make a motion to approve the trip request by Andy Beckstrom, OHS teacher, for a student trip to Washington, D.C. in the fall of 2026, as described by him and outlined in enclosure 19 trip request.
Second.
Motion by Tracy, seconded by Ann, to approve the trip request for student trip to Washington, D.C. in the fall of 2026, as detailed by Andy Beckstrom or as presented by Andy Beckstrom and is detailed in enclosure 19 trip request. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for, as you pointed out, we haven't done this, at least that I'm aware of, and I know some surrounding schools do, and I think it's a worthwhile trip, and obviously look at our own government, our own history. So appreciate you thinking outside the box and taking this on, because I imagine it's not a small amount of work. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. No, it is work, but it's really fun work.
Team, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is also approved. Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Action item number 18, the district library plan. We welcome Anne Marie Dahl, LMC Director at Irving Perch.
Before Anne Marie starts, I can just give you a little overview. So Anne Marie is our curriculum chair for LMC. So thank you very much, Anne Marie, for leading that work with all of our LMC directors across the district. New this year, the approved by the board plan has to be uploaded to DPI as well. So that's what she's going to present to you is not all of the details of the plan. There's a much bulkier plan that goes behind it, but she's going to share with you the overview of what goes together in our DPI library plan, and then she'll share what our conference after.
Okay.
Go ahead, Anne Marie.
good. All right, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Anne Marie Dahl. This is my 4th year in Onalaska. Before that, I served 22 years in Pullman as a teacher. So our DPI library plan, every 3 years, the DPI requires that districts complete a plan, including goals, that needs to be submitted to the DPI. So we have been working on this plan for almost 3 years. And it's gone through many iterations, a self-study, and what I want to present to you tonight is the main bulk of it, which is our goals. We spent a lot of time working on a self-study, including staff and student surveys, figuring out where were our strengths and our weaknesses in our programs at all of the levels in our district. So our elementary school goals that we came up with are weed and update our collections. So these are 3-year goals. Weed and update collections. Weeding is a painful process for many book lovers. However, just like a garden, the old needs to come out to make way for the new. So weeding and updating is a big part of our jobs. And then a student goal. At the elementary level, students being able to locate and use materials independently is a huge step for our students in the elementary going to middle school and high school. And then our collaboration goal to continue collaborating with teachers to support the curriculum. That work is already being done. However, there's always more that can be done. Our middle school goals are very similar, but the needs of the middle school are different than the elementary. The elementary, we are part of the Encore team, so kids come to us. So things like circulation and getting kids engaged is much easier at the elementary level because they're required to be here with me, whether they want to be or not. So the middle school, Weed and Update, they're focusing on the nonfiction collection, which, as materials become outdated, is important for us to update. Their second goal is increasing student engagement and participation at the middle school, and then collaborating with teachers to support curriculum. High school goals, updating and modernizing the collection. If you've been in our high school library, you may have seen that there is a very large collection, but some of it needs to be modernized, so that is a 3-year goal. Increasing student engagement and participation, again. And then increasing the awareness and the use of the LMC resources by collaborating with staff and providing staff training. We really worked hard to tie these to our pillars because our pillars are guiding our work in the district and in our schools. And so under student growth engagement, you can see on the screen locating and using those materials, and then increasing student engagement and participation meets that pillar. Family and community engagement. While we don't have a family and community engagement goal in our DPI plan, we have many activities that we are currently doing that meet this goal, including our book fairs at the elementary level. And then staff recruitment, development, and retention. That collaboration piece and increasing the awareness of what we can offer along with staff training meets those needs in that pillar as well. And then the last pillar with facilities, operations, and our stewardship. For those of you who don't know, our common school funds are written into the Wisconsin State Constitution. So those funds for school libraries are in our Constitution. We are the only state in the United States that has it in our Constitution that provides those resources. So a lot of my job, a lot of our librarians' jobs are to be good stewards of that taxpayer money. And so you can see up there, all of our collection development goals and our collaboration goals are tied to those common school funds. There are very specific things that we can purchase with common school funds and things we cannot. But mostly it's books, it's things that are housed in the library, hands-on makerspace activities as well. And so those amounts are very large, very generous, continue to grow, which is amazing. And so that all of the things in our DPI plan, we need to prove that we're meeting those goals and that they're tied to how we spend our common school funds. And we put a lot of thought into that.
I know it might seem strange to have money attached to one of these presentations, but that's one of the statutory requirements.
Correct.
So just so that you know, that's not something that typically is required on the report card.
I think it's exciting and educational, like learning that that's codified in our Constitution is a fantastic tidbit.
Yeah.
But also, I really appreciate the comments about bringing students and teachers and collaborating on curriculum in an age where we tend to use computers far too much to do our research and learn, to put physical text in our hands and use that to learn is really important.
Well, and for anyone who has been in one of our libraries, and if you haven't been, please stop by. Our libraries are so much more than books. And through our plan, STEM, so science, technology, engineering, math, is such a huge focus now in the American school library standards, and helping with critical thinking and being critical consumers of media is such a huge part. Now, these three goals, we went with the classic three goals: keep it small, keep it concise. Every 3 years, we will need to update, but at the end of each school year, we will update our action plans toward our goals, and then in 3 years, I'll be back here asking you again to approve this plan for the DPI.
Marie, your passion's evident, so for all of that. You mentioned the family community engagement. I couldn't agree more. The excellent efforts known. Sometimes there's engagement through the tangible means, and sometimes there's intangible. And that's being, my kids went through early encouragement. My daughter's lots of reading study. Right there, early encouragement. So thank you for what you do. And just to know that from a parent's perspective, it is readily apparent when you ever go fairs or conferences. I'm sure that's all elementary school districts. It's definitely a passion project. I'm very
I just want to mention that I appreciate that you tied it to the pillars, because that's, what guides us, right? And as a fellow book lover, I wrote down, what happens to those books you weed out? Do you sell them?
Good
Do you
question.
donate them? What happens to
So
them?
when we weed books, we put them on a cart for freebies for kids. We put them in our little free libraries. And then if worse comes to worse, sometimes the material is outdated and not necessarily what we want our kids to have, then we dispose of them.
Can you touch a little bit on, for people who may be listening and don't have this document in front of them, how do you go about weeding? What is the process and how do you decide?
Great. All right, so weeding, I could talk to you about this for days, but I won't.
Okay, never mind.
One of the basic thing is looking at age of materials, especially in the nonfiction text. When we're talking about things in science, health, technology, those things change pretty rapidly. So looking at the age of the text, looking at if they've circulated or not. Unfortunately, when I go through the work of selecting books, I'm super pumped, and then sometimes no one else is, and that happens. And so looking at circulation, looking at wear and tear on books, the ones that come back stuck together with gum or a strawberry in the middle of it. We got the stories I could tell you about the things we find in our books. So we do age collection. Sometimes it's about if we have books that could replace, better. So, for example, the older texts, your more classic traditional texts, they won't check out unless you get a new cover, and then they fly. So some of that. So, for example, Babysitter's Club. I love those books when I was a kid. They have new covers now, and so do the rest of the kids love them now. And so reading kind of involves all of those things. That's one of the things we learn about in library school, but it's also something we talk about professionally to keeping things on the shelves that don't circulate. We're not a museum. We're an active collection for kids and staff. And so we spend a big amount of our time looking at what do kids need and what matches our curriculum and what do we need for our curriculums.
So you're saying we can judge a book by its cover? Is that what I'm hearing?
I am saying I may do that, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I'm also here to talk to you about...
We have one bit of action.
Oh, yes, please.
This is on for board approval.
I would move that we approve the library plan as presented by Anne Marie and outlined in enclosure 18.
Second.
Motion by Ann, seconded by Bridget to approve the district library plan as presented by Anne Marie Dahl and detailed in enclosure 18 library. Any further questions, team? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That is approved. And now we can turn ourselves to conference recap, item 11, and right back to you, Amber.
And it's me. So last year, one thing that you need to know about me is I'm all about continuous growth for students and for staff. And I was looking for some library staff development and came upon the National Education Association, our national union, has grants available that I never knew anything about. And so I started looking into them, and they have one that's the Learning and Leadership Grant. So I went to Abby and sold her my little plan. Abby's really good about all the goofy, crazy things that I want to do. She's really good about humoring me and going along with a, yeah. So she gave me the okay to apply. So I wrote a grant to attend the American Association of School Librarians Conference. This conference happens twice a year in the United States, and this most recently was in St. Louis. So when I wrote the grant, I asked for coverage of flight. I asked the coverage for food, for my sub, for my hotel, for the actual conference fee, and then I padded it with $750 to buy things for our library when I returned. Because often you go to conferences and you get excited and then you come back and you can't implement. And I was granted it. So after a little happy dance in the library, ran down to Todd. I think I was at EB, teaching at EB that day. Abby was out of town, ran into Todd to tell him. And this last 2 weeks ago, I got to go. So I just thought I'd share a few of the highlights with you. Bless you. One of the things that I got to do as part of the conference, you could attend field trips. and I got to go to the Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, which was an amazing museum, very sobering museum, but I had never had that opportunity. And so went to the museum, and then they talked to us about what kind of books we can include in our collections that are appropriate at the elementary, the middle, and the high school level, and how to talk with kids about this part of history. So that was pretty amazing. I know this won't shock you, but I spent a lot of time fangirling. I love authors, and one of the neat things about the conference, I got to do author speed dating the first day I was there. We sat around tables and got to meet authors and learn about their books, their process, and how to use those with kids. So here are some of the pictures of me with some of the famous authors, which was just amazing. When you go to these conferences, everybody told me bring a second suitcase. They weren't kidding. In the exhibit room, you could stand in line to get autographs. So I had brought money along because I was going to buy these books. They give you the books for free. So I was able to get 14 books with a value of about $300 to bring back, which was pretty amazing, let alone getting to meet the authors. In between the times at the exhibit hall, I got to go to different sessions. These are a few. I'm on the district committee with Lish looking at AI, so I went to some sessions on AI, went to a session on ADA compliance with websites and making sure that we are updating, being compliant with ADA, and I'll be talking to a few people getting us on board with that soon. Lots of ways to engage students, learning about the 5 types of nonfiction books and how to explain that to staff and students, and then some technology as well. And then, as I talked in the last plan, talking about makerspace and STEM, I was able to find lots of really cool hands-on. The item on the left is they're actually coding pieces that kids, kindergarten, first graders can put together, and it tells these little robot trains how to go in a complete circuit. Then there's 2 other items on there as well that we'll be purchasing for the elementary schools. So those were some things. My main takeaway, people from 50 states, 8 countries. We are blessed and lucky in the state of Wisconsin to have those common school funds. There were people that I met that the only money they have to buy books is what they make for their Scholastic book fair, which is less than $1,100. So knowing that, and they're like, so what's your budget? It really made me see how we are blessed, and I'm very grateful for your support in allowing me to go, for my sub that was able, and for my para that held down the ship while I was gone. But it was an amazing, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because I did not spend all the allocated money for my food and my travel expenses, that money will roll over to be able to buy more items for our library. So it'll be about $1,150 for new things from this grant. So it's pretty amazing. So thank you for letting me share my experience with you.
Really exciting to see your passion and see that come through, and for taking the risk to apply, right? We don't ever know if we get the opportunity unless we take that chance.
That's right. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, team. We are on to student and administrator reports. We'll start with you, Karina.
Alright, so I'm going to be talking about 2 bigger topics today. First, some of the award ceremonies going on at the high school on November 3rd. And then some new engage opportunities that I spoke a little bit about last month. So first, on November 3rd, there are 2 ceremonies going on at the high school to recognize students. The first begins at 6 p.m. and it's the National Honor Society induction ceremony. And this is a ceremony that honors junior and senior level students who have above a 3.5 GPA and demonstrate leadership in school and community activities. And right after that, the second ceremony is the academic award ceremony. So this ceremony takes place each year, and this year it's in the PAC at 6 p.m. after the NHS induction ceremony. And this ceremony honors students who earned above a 3.5 GPA or raised their GPA by a minimum of 0.5 last school year. And I believe the duality of this event shows Onalaska's commitment of ensuring higher levels of education for all by recognizing the high-achieving students who have over a 3.5 GPA and also students who are working hard and showcasing self-discipline and quality performance to raise their grade point average 0.5 from last year to this year. And then another piece of this ceremony is the student speaker. And this year our school selected Nuku Yang, who is a student at Onalaska High School, to speak at this academic awards ceremony. And Nuku is a high school student who grew up speaking Hmong and English, and she'll be talking about how growing up and communicating with her family, schoolmates, and friends in different languages pushed her to be more involved within the community. So I'm really looking forward to that presentation just because I've never heard from a student or anyone before about how that can change their life and push them to do more things. So I'm really excited to see that and hear from her. And then also last meeting I spoke about the high school's new Engage schedule, which allows students to take a short class 2 times each month to learn about new fun topics. So as we near November 1st, many seniors at Onalaska are preparing to submit their college applications to universities all across the United States and even the world. And this time can be pretty stressful for students as we're working hard to keep our good grades up to be able to go off to college in the fall and be active in sports and activities at school like we have been for the past 4 years. And so because of this, the counselors at Onalaska began a support group for all things college during this new Engage resource time. So students, they can receive help with their application, they can receive help writing and editing their essays, completing federal financial aid applications, and sending their AP and ACT scores to schools, which can be pretty hard to navigate as it's our first time doing this and not having much guidance for it. And so this new offering has helped many seniors feel confident as they plan for their future at OHS. And I'm pretty excited about it because it's a pretty awesome opportunity to be able to have that extra step, that extra pat in the back when you're submitting things for your future. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is something that I've been involved in a little bit, but the counselors at OHS and the Student Services Department is applying for a grant to receive funding to enrich the opportunities during Engage. So 2 students, Nuku, who is speaking at the awards ceremony, and then myself, will be featured in a video later this week talking about all the opportunities that we have during Engage and how we build community and belonging at OHS. And we're going to talk about how we're going to use this funding to enrich the opportunities available to students during Engage. So I'm really excited about the awards ceremony and about this new grant. It's going to really take Engage to a new level. I mean, students are already really enjoying it at Onalaska, and I'm excited to see how the funds will be used to help students even more.
Is Engage something for all grades, or is it just in all grades?
Yeah, so it's all grades 2 times a month during our extended learning days. We have a little bit shorter classes, and we have 20 minutes at the end of each day to take a fun class. Last week I took ballroom dancing, and I've taken cooking classes, all kinds of fun things. So
Very cool.
It's a really good time to just learn about things that you would never maybe learn about on your own time.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I'm curious roughly how many students are being inducted into NHS, do we know offhand?
A lot. I think there was, looking at the meetings this year, there's about 60 seniors in it, so I'm guessing about the same for the junior class.
Very impressive.
How, from the teacher perspective with Engage, how do they view that opportunity to teach those subjects? They're a little bit off of the language.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the neat part is it allows teachers to show a passion that may not be involved with math, science, or what they're teaching. So there's, from talking about sports to hunting to Legos to, the ballroom dancing was actually an interesting one because that was with an exchange student would help with that. So even maybe other ways to tie some other student interests that we're not talking about, but it really, we don't want it to be something, and it isn't something extra for teaching staff, but something they're passionate about that they can share with their students. So it's a pretty neat opportunity to make new connections that we didn't know before.
I had the opportunity to participate in a really popular room. I was euchre, and that was, you couldn't even hardly get in there. So that was a lot of fun playing euchre, and it's a pretty awesome thing that they're doing.
Did you know how to play euchre?
No, and they taught me. And they made a lot of fun of me, especially because I was wearing my Viking swag that day too. And apparently they Dave said that Wisconsin is the originator of euchre, so, you know, I'm not a true Wisconsinite until I master euchre. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Schaffner and Officer Blair are quite the tandem. Take anyone on if you're interested. But we're looking forward to this Friday. We've videoed every teaching staff in our building to help lead our professional development we had on Friday. We started doing some of this last year. We're getting into classrooms. Teachers let us know different snippets of, let me back up. Each department has an organized goal in which they're working on and working toward and how they can collaborate together, from grouping of students to how they're working on some of their writing prompts and so on. So we are putting the videos together. We bring in teams on the hour to kind of share the video snippets of what we've seen and not only just of the teachers but also with some student voice in there as well. So it's a great time because we often, you know, I feel guilty walking into classrooms and seeing wonderful things that teachers are doing when teachers don't have the opportunity to see their own teaching staff. So there's so much in the room and in our building that we can learn from each other that we just can't capture through conversation. So it's been really a great learning tool for our staff and for us just to kind of sit around the table and kind of have conversations on how to meet the needs of kids and our goals and kind of move things forward. So that's what Friday is all about for us at the high school. So looking forward to that conversation and commitment and collaboration. So it's a neat time for us on Friday.
Yeah, a couple things. So clubs in the high school are also in full swing by now. It's really neat to see all the time that our students spend in the community of Onalaska, the lacrosse, the greater lacrosse area, and then also inside of our building. So it's a really fun thing to see, and we continue to grow there. In terms of some fine arts, marching band, they had their end of the year review last week in the gym. It's always a fun night, and they play really, really loud. And for the seniors, there's some tears because that's the last time they'll play that marching band, you know, for that yearly show. But, you know, it's a neat way to kind of wrap things up, and they had another outstanding year. And sports, girls swimming is still going. They have their sectional meet coming up this weekend. Volleyball is playing in a sectional Thursday night, and football is playing the second round of the playoffs this Friday night. So plenty going on, as always at the high school, and we continue because on Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, we have our winter sports meeting. So we'll be kicking right off into the winter sports season and all of those other areas of the fine arts that come with winter. So a lot going on, but again, just proud of all of our students that represent us so well.
Yes, so I would echo a lot going on. We finished our fall season, and so related to the area of belonging, we got a lot of things that are either starting or really ramping up. And so specifically, wrestling started today. I see Eric's ready for that right there. And boys basketball started last week. Our music department is really ramping things up as well. Jazz band has started, as well as a new club pep band has started in the last couple of weeks. We also had a number of students qualify for honors band, and show choir is kind of ramping up their practice schedule to get ready for their upcoming season in a month or so here to start. Related to continuous improvement, we are also looking forward to our PD day. I know the district has a lot of good opportunities for some of our curricular teams to meet vertically across buildings, and so that's always good. And then we've got some stuff planned just at Onalaska Middle School as well to take care of some stuff that we got going on. And then just a quick highlight related to the area of achievement. A classroom observation I was in last week in our 8th grade social studies classrooms. They're doing some really great work in there, and I just wanted to share with you. They were talking about thesis statements, and so the teachers in there, they were talking about what makes a good thesis statement and giving a lot of examples and having the kids make their own examples of all of relevant things. And this was all building to a summative assessment in which they were writing a thesis statement about the actual social studies content. But I walked away really impressed thinking, like, today they were English teachers, not social studies teachers. They were just using social studies content. And so they've really done a great job going beyond just basic fact memorization to really working on some of those literacy skills as well as analytical, logical thinking skills that are going to be really helpful because Google can do the fact-based research for us, right? And so that's something we talk about a lot, and when we see it, we want to highlight it and call it out and give credit where credit's due. So that's what we got.
Yes, I do. So just wanted to extend our thanks to our nutritional services team again, and also board members and administrators for coming to our elementary schools and serving lunch for National School Lunch Week. We also just recently had a coaching visit from CKLA, so our new ELA curricular resource. We had one day at each elementary school with a coach who met with teams, modeled portions of lessons, did some observations, and then just some problem solving and question and answer sessions with our teams, specifically around pacing and student engagement during instruction. So we're looking to continue that on Friday. We do have CKLA trainers on site on Friday, focusing on unit planning with our curricular teams, K2 and then 3-5 as well. So just some more great work there. And then also just want to highlight the iFood drive that we have going on across our buildings, just gathering food for our food pantry donations, and also just highlighting Unity Day that was last Wednesday across elementary, dressing in orange, and then just celebrating acceptance, belonging, and kindness across each of our buildings.
Thank you. Kelly, anything to add? Okay. Thank you all. Building projects update. Getting closer, Charlie?
Things are tidying up for sure around the high school and outside the high school. If you didn't notice, on Wilson Street, they have paved and lined that additional parking lot right in front of Wilson Street with, I think it's about 45 new parking spots, along with more construction area leaving the parking lot. It's really opening up more parking spaces than we've obviously ever seen at the high school. So I think at the end of it, it's going to be great for events and great for our students and staff to be able to get, our surrounding areas off of our main streets, surrounding streets, so that we can, do all that we can to be good stewards to our neighbors too, and get everyone as much as we can parking in that area. So that's a big thing that's coming the next couple of weeks as we roll those pieces out. But inside the building, we have a second shift crew working on the floor and in the basement, and they're just kind of working their way around the school, in the hallways and into some of the classrooms. Continuing to work on our music areas are getting closer and closer and taking shape with drywall and other pieces. Just into that, finishing up our locker rooms, and also our new choir and our functional special education spaces is taking shape. So it's really looking great. Things are getting cleaned up, and hoping, by the middle of December, we're just kind of working on a lot of punch list items and really getting closer to the finish line.
Thank you.
We are so close. It's so exciting. They're finishing up the landscaping this week, and then really it's just some touch-ups and fixing some defects. And we got a couple of small furniture snafus. We seem to have misplaced about 50 chairs. I'm pretty sure they never actually got delivered, but we're trying to figure that out. That's for our large group instruction room, so no huge rush on that, but it would be nice to have that space functional, and that's kind of the thing holding that up. But otherwise, we are kind of busy making preparations for our open house and official celebration of the project being done. And so this may be one of my last updates for you all. So it's great.
It's not on the agenda, but is there anything to say about our haunted house?
It continues to progress. Yeah. So, hopefully, maybe by Thanksgiving time. So, so we'll see how they go. They keep making progress.
Fantastic. Thanks, Doug. Okay, we have now our summer school report, and we'll turn to Kelly.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through slide 2, the key points on there. They're pulling it up right now. We saw some consistent enrollment in our July K-8 programming and a lot of support for our enrichment programs. I know staff highlighted that, the kids are always excited to go to enrichment, and families, a lot of it is just positive feedback around the exciting parts of summer school beyond math and reading. So those are always a highlight. We did have a slight decrease in our June grades 1 through 8 enrollment. our June programming is only half days, which is very difficult for families to work out, and it doesn't always work with, for example, Y or other programs in the area either. So it's something that we'll continue to look at in the future and consider what our June offering can look like so that we can continue to offer something, but it might look different than what it's looked like in the past. So we'll be looking at that. We did see a good increase in enrollment in our students entering grades 9 through 12 due to the addition of a blended learning option for our courses instead of before it was all in person. So we did a blended learning option this year and saw a good increase there. So overall, it led to an increase in our FTE specifically because of the increase in enrollment at the high school. I know we had, like I said, continued positive feedback from families and staff on especially our high school and our July program, and so just finding ways to, and our kindergarten camps in July and August. So finding ways to highlight those areas and see what else we can do, because we know, like, for example, Cooley Ridge and Adventure Camp always gets really great feedback too, but we only offer it 5 days. So are there ways we always talk about that? Can we expand that, or what can we do with some of those enrichment opportunities that families and children really like? Questions all about the report?
I just appreciate the awareness of how the impact of summer school is in relationship to the other services in our area, because, you know, we want to serve as many students as we can, and I think that's fantastic that you identified that as a potential gap in the ability for people to participate. So, yeah, it's very impressive.
Any other questions? Great report. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
I'll turn to Lish for some discussion around the Wisconsin Student Assessment System and access for ELLs.
Yeah, thank you. So this is our annual requirement to share with you how our students have done on all of the assessments that are part of the package of assessments in Wisconsin. And so just a reminder of how this connects to our strategic plan and our scorecard. Our scorecard, we are measuring how we rank on the report cards for achievement and growth. Those are still embargoed, so I don't have the report card part for you. But these scores are all pieces that make up those report cards. So in one more meeting, maybe 2 more meetings, we'll be able to give you this information on how we've done on the scorecard. So just a reminder of which assessments make up this package of assessments in Wisconsin. So the pre-ACT Secure is given to our 9th and 10th graders in reading, English, math, and science. The ACT then is given to all juniors, and they have 5 different subject areas plus a composite score. And then the forward is given to 3rd through 8th graders, and then also 10th graders. ELA and math for everybody in 3rd through 8th grade, science in 4th and 8th grade, social studies in 4th, 8th, and 10th. And then the DLM is kind of the paired assessment with the forward, but that's given to our students that are on the essential elements or have the specific goals in their IEPs that use the essential elements curriculum. New this year is the Ames Web Plus Reading Readiness. You might remember we started sharing about that last winter for our early reading readiness. And then the access for our multilingual learners, that assessment's given only to our multilingual learners in the district. So I'll start with the pre-ACT Secure. So showing you here how our district did the percentage of advanced and meeting, and then how the state performed in advanced and meeting. So anywhere where I've highlighted this in purple, that means we were above the state. So that's kind of your quick glance. So this is our 9th graders in ELA, and how they did in ELA in comparison. We were top 6 in our comparable districts. That's 18 districts that we selected across the state, and we were top 2 in our region. And then for 10th grade for ELA, there again you can see that we were above the state, and we were top 4 in our comparables, and then top in the region for 10th grade ELA. And then here's the historical perspective for you, so you can see how the class of 2027, how they did on their 9th and 10th grade pre-ACT Secure. And then our ACT that all of our 11th graders take. Here you can see how our 11th graders performed in each of those different subject areas, as well as the composite is that last score on the bottom. Again, we were above the state in each of those areas. We were in the top 4 in our comparable districts, and we're the top in our regional districts for ACT composite. That is a celebration. For our forwarding DLM, this is the bar graph that the state gives us. So this shows you kind of that blue and teal is what we're looking at for the advanced and meeting. Overall, this is all of our 3rd through 10th graders that, or excuse me, 3rd through 8th graders that take ELA and DLM. And then this is the breakdown of each grade. As you can see, almost all of our grades, with the exception of 5th grade, we are above the state on that one. For how we performed for our comparables, we were 9th in our comparable districts out of 18, so right in the middle, and 3rd in the region out of 6 districts in the region. And then this is a breakdown of just each of the buildings as well, so that you can see those broken out. So for the most part, above the state, just a couple of grades at Northern Hills not above the state, but that 3rd grade is starting to show some of the work that we've been doing across our early intervention and early reading. Our math then, again, here you can see that blue and teal is what we're looking at for the advanced and meeting. And here is by grade for math. And they're a little bit better than ELA with our comparable districts. We were 7th out of the 18 in our comparable districts. And again, they're 3rd in the region out of the 6. But above the state, and pretty significantly above the state in some of those younger grades where we're starting to see the benefit of the work we've been putting in there in our curricular resources. And again, here you can see it broken out by each of the grades at each building. Some exciting to point out there is that as we start to get towards 80% proficiency, that means that that's showing a real strength of our Tier 1 system and that our curriculum is really meeting needs. So it's exciting to see that we're meeting that in a couple places and really mirroring that in a couple places as well. And then science, that is given in grades 4 and 8. And so you can see here how all of our buildings did in 4th grade and then in 8th grade compared to the state. And there we were 11th in our comparables and 3rd in the region. And for social studies there, this is 4th, 8th, and 10th grade. And here you can see that for the most part above the state, and some areas nearing that 80% as well, which is exciting. Top 9 in our comparables and top 3 in our region. And then that is it for forward. So new this year for us, you've seen the winter and the spring data here. This is that AIMSA Plus or reading readiness. And so you can see how we performed here this fall. 16.3% of our students were at below that 25th percentile, so meeting that personal reading plan. Now something of note here is that some of this can be attributed to the work that we've done, and some of this can be attributed to that nationally this assessment was renormed. So this is not suddenly saying that we cut it in half. It's a little bit of both of those things, so just something to note there. And that's not something our state has chosen to renorm, that's a national renorming that took place. And here's a breakdown of how this has progressed for each of our buildings as well. So you can see, yes, we've made some really good growth in this, but also some of that renorming is showing there too. And then our access for ELLs, so this is our multilingual learners, and this just shows the number of students that we have exited from Emma. So 27 students last year exited from the program, which is a celebration. As you can see, that's the highest number we've exited in the past 5 years. And that is definitely attributable to the hard work of our multilingual teachers. And then this just shows the student language levels as well. So you can see that we are steadily decreasing the students at language level 1, which is good. We don't want them to stay there for very long. We want them to continue to grow. And then this is their growth percentiles as well. So we want to see that dark purple getting bigger. We want to see kids growing more than a year within a year there. And a question that I know that the board has often had is what languages we serve. So I didn't make you a pie graph here, but our languages have changed a bit. We're at about 69% Hmong and up to about 22% Spanish now. So that's definitely a shift in the past 5 years with the languages that we serve. And then we also have about 3% of our students that come to us speaking Chinese as their first language, and then a handful of other languages that are like 1% or lower. And then the last thing, this is kind of just a piece of info for you. We were not selected for the National Assessment of Educational Progress this past year, but we are selected this year. So next year I will have some information to share with you about OMS for 8th grade math. We are going to have the NAEP test at OMS this year, and just whether it's new for you or a reminder for you, that is when it is a cohort of people that come to your school, they proctor the test, they basically say, let me at this classroom, and then you can leave. So they come and they run the whole thing, and then we get the results of how our students have done, and then that's how they do those national comparisons as well. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have for me.
I have a question. Having never had a high schooler, I guess I'm just curious. The ACT, we had 217 students who tested. Is that the entire 11th grade? So we provide that.
Correct. So a handful of years ago, the state of Wisconsin determined that they wanted to use the ACT as the assessment that is given to all students. So at that time, it was called like the plan for 9th and 10th grade. Do you remember, Charlie? It's had different names throughout, but adopted that whole ACT suite. So 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, whatever test they have for the ACT suite is what Wisconsin adopted as their test. So it used to be like when we went to college, you took the ACT if you wanted to go to college, and now it's everybody takes it.
Right, so to that too, we used to make comparisons of the ACT, but it was only a percentage of our students that were taking it. So now it's a state assessment for juniors, and so we're able to do a more true comparison because all students are able to use it. What? No, are you done? Sorry, were you done, Bridget? Okay. What's done with the pre-ACT data that's done in the 9th and 10th grades in relationship to preparation for their 11th grade full strength ACT?
I can give you kind of an overview, but Charlie or Jason are probably better to answer the discrete details. But students are given their scores. They have a little reflection on how do they think they did on each of them and where does that seem to match what they actually know, and then make a goal for improvement. And then depending on what those skills are that they might need, then they're working with the teacher during some of those ELD days in their resource to be able to target that skill that they need.
Yep, and some of our data retrieve information is kind of pull different strands of kind of where we're high, where we're low, where we need to build them up. So that's a big part of that conversation, and also part of our department goals that we set in August and things that we work on throughout the year.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Rich?
Great report.
I really appreciate the way you summarized it and walked through. Very easy to understand. We'll move on to item 16, which is a first reading on a set of board policies.
Yeah, I guess I'll start and then I'll ask our board members who sit on that committee to follow up. This was my first process going through it, and it was a great learning experience for me. And I will tell you that there'll be some things that we keep the same, but there'll be some revisions and some modifications and refinements to our process. But I thought overall it was a good process. We were able to move forward 3 items that you'll see later on in the agenda for action that were holdovers from last spring. So we were able to work through that, and I would say that there was, with the policies presented in front of you, there was nothing that was controversial by any means. There was some good discussion, and we had to make some choices around some things. There is one policy that we had some questions on that we needed to follow up with an attorney, and we weren't able to get it on this agenda, but you'll see it in next board meeting's agenda as a first read. So I'll leave my comments there and ask for commentary from Eric or Tracy.
I would just add that it wasn't controversial because of all the hard work done beforehand. So by the time it reaches us, the board, it's going to be subject matter experts, and through lawyers to really at that point for the board, it's just curiosity questions that sometimes spark further discussion. But if there are any board members that have questions, Tracy or I can answer. But the laydown that's in the attachment of the line edits is a good outline of what was done and why. So appreciation for all the hard work that's done before it ever even gets to us. And to Ben's point, the one that we'll see the next time we meet, really good conversation around that. It's the policy regarding dances, and the genesis of that is wanting good learning environments for our kids, whether that's during school hours or outside. So it's a great policy. It's just a matter of making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and excellent work from our council and the school. So good things from my point of view. Tracy?
I would just say that I felt like a policy committee meeting went very well and that everybody was very prepared. Ben was prepared to educate us with all of the facts from the discussions that were had from the administrators on the policies before they were presented to us. And like Eric said, we had a few questions here and there, but Ben was able to answer almost all of the questions that we had. So it was very productive, and there was a lot of great conversation about them. But the policies that we have for first reading here were all very straightforward. There weren't many big changes. One thing that I did note was that previously there was some language prior to this batch of policies where Neola had changed the word superintendent to district administrator, and now we are gravitating back towards, back from district administrator to superintendent, because that's what we call that role here in our district. So if people are confused, like, well, why does it say district administrator before and now it's that's just to align with the language we already use in our district. So just worth mentioning.
Any questions on specific policies? If there are, I think they could be referred to Ben in between this meeting.
Yep, that's why we do 2 readings. So now you have 2 weeks. If you have questions, reach out to me and we'll get all your questions answered the best that we can.
We'll move on to, these are into action items. Item 20, which is, again, board policies, but these are on for second reading.
Just a couple comments here. We had good discussions on these as well. These are holdovers. There was a couple of questions just with these policies on how we might be able to better allow our team members to share and utilize their gifts and talents outside of school hours, possibly in the summer. We didn't feel that we needed to change the policy language, although we were able to procedurally find a place on our website under families that's called activities by outside agencies that anyone would have the opportunity to apply to have their information placed on this, and families would be able to go to the spot to check out what's being offered. So we are hoping that the board will approve this as a second reading and make these policies official.
And to echo off of Ben with the website, it allows families to have, I'm sure there's lots of resources in our area, but it's nice to have a place to go as a starting point to know what's out there, because a lot of times you don't need it until you need it, and then you don't know where to look. And so I was very grateful that our administration team put this together to make this happen for all of our families and staff, students.
Something I'd add is that teaching, part of the discussion here is teaching is not a job or an occupation, it's a profession. Profession is a definition. Precisely in ethics, the profession has to protect it vigorously in order to protect the profession. So part of the discussion with this was that, and how do we balance opportunity, as Tracy mentioned, but also protecting the profession, and where do you err, and tend to err on the side of the profession and protecting ethics. So it was a good conversation, and that's why that one took a little bit longer, and that turned out the way that it did.
I'll make a motion to approve the following board policies: 1130, ethics and conflict of interest; 3230 ethics and conflict of interest, and 4230 ethics and conflict of interest as outlined in enclosure 20 board policies.
Motion by Tracy, seconded by Ann to approve board policies 1130, 3230, and 4230 as presented by the policy committee and detailed in enclosure 20 board policies.
And if anybody's confused as to why there's 3 policies with the same name-ish, it's because it's for different levels of staff within our district. Just to clarify.
Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those policies are approved. And team, thank you for your work on this. Moving on to item 21, which is the 2025-26 original budget adoption, and we'll turn it over to Janet.
Yeah, I'll be as excited as Anne Marie. This is our kind of our big night for budget. As you know, we've been working on this with the board level since March, and at the administrative level well before that. And my goal is always to continue to drip information out for our community and for our board members so that when we get to tonight, it's actually pretty anticlimactic that we've been having pieces of this all along, and so it's just kind of pulling all the pieces together. There's two action items that we'll ask for tonight. I'll talk about each of them and then we'll pull back and take them one by one. In item number 21, there are 2 attachments in the budget adoption, which is on the screen right now, and then there's the entire presentation. And there's a lot in that presentation, but on purpose, because what my goal is for you as a board and for the community as a whole to have one place where you can go, and if you've got a question about the district, hopefully you can find it there. And we have these documents as well on our Finance and Business Services webpage, so anybody from the community will be able to find those documents there. We'll have the original budget and the budget adoption and the presentation through the entire year. And then after we adopt the original budget, as we do budget amendments, we'll just keep building on that, and you'll see each one of those on the finance page. So talking about what are those last 2 items that had come in when we had our budget hearing, I said that there were 2 things that we had not yet had, and that was our equalization aid and then our voucher information. Both of those things really don't impact this budget from the standpoint of their not spendable money. The voucher money will go from, we collect it in taxes and then it goes to the voucher schools. So it's in our budget just as a line item, but it's not spendable money, so it doesn't impact that. And then, as you know, with state equalization aid, there's a direct and inverse relationship between state equalization aid and local taxes. So again, doesn't really impact that budget bottom line by much at all. It's just which direction does it go. So for our equalization aid, that is down $1.1 million less than last year. And remember, in the state budget, there was no new money put in equalization aid. Guessing that is pretty hard because it's a pot of money, and so how every school district in the state spends and how they're growing impacts us from both spending, how they're growing, and then what's happening with their property law. So all of those 3 factors go into consideration. It's down $1.1 million from last year, and it's $66,000 less than what we had projected from our July 1 equalization aid estimate from the Department of Public Instruction. With vouchers, they are up $223,000 over last year, and we expected that they would go up just because the funding amount goes up, and the voucher program continues to grow every single year. It is down $79,000 less than what we had projected, though. And then, and again, that's just a pass-through. Then,
For the presentation, which is not on your screen, I just want to draw attention to a few pages in that presentation that hopefully if you've got it up or people at home have it up or make notes on that, you can go back and look at it later. We have more detail in the personnel area on pages 25 through 27, and what we put in there is by teaching area, just the detail of where our teaching staff are, and then how does that compare compared to prior years for both our teaching staff and our professional educators. Then the budget numbers on pages 29 through 34 have been updated. And again, on a bottom line basis, it didn't change much at all because it's just the categories of different between equalization aid and local taxes. The voucher impact is on page 37. And that's something that I think is important to look at and just seeing how that has changed over time with both the growth in the program and then the increased funding for that. Oh, they're popping it up for you. Okay, thank you, Kristen. And then on page 38, you will see the levy components. So if you go one more page forward. That's how our levy components, so there's three, the general and debt service and community service fund, and then you can see that change over year. Remember I said state aid went down 1.1 million, and look at the increase in the levy. I mean, it pretty much accounts for the entire amount of increase, and remember we had a $325 per pupil revenue limit increase. So it basically explains the entire change that we had. So 5.4% change overall. Then another interesting page is page 39, our levy by municipality. Whoops. Page 39, if we go to that one. What I think is really important to look at here is how, remember we apportion our levy on equalized value, not assessed value. And that really shows up in that percentage of change by each municipality. Our city of Onalaska, if you remember, is by far our biggest municipality. That changed the least amount, which is closest to our average, but municipality by municipality, it changes quite a bit, even though the total dollar amounts for each of these municipalities is a lot smaller, just given their smaller equalized value. And then finally, the mill rate, tax levy rate, here it called all of those things, is projected or will decrease from, on an equalized basis, from 813 to 806 on page 45. So again, they caution us to not hone in on the mill rate. You know, it's going down. It's really important that we look at, in a district like ours where we don't have a lot of new growth, is to look on that bottom line of the dollar increase. So if we could go back then to the first page, I'll ask that or maybe I'll go on to the levy too, and then you can go back or do you want to make a motion on this and then go to the next agenda item?
It's a separate item, so we
Okay.
should look at the budget adoption first.
So what my recommendation would be is that you approve this as an original budget as presented, and then you go all the way down the bottom. You can see like with both revenues and expenses, but there's a lot of numbers on this sheet.
I would move that we approve the 25-26 original budget as outlined in enclosure 21 and detailed very well by Jamie.
Motion by Ann, seconded by Eric, to approve the 2025-26 original budget adoption as detailed in enclosures 21. Any questions? Amanda, can we do a roll call?
Yes.
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 Mark?
Yes.
Bridget? Yes.
Yes. Thank you. That
And to go with that original budget is the tax levy. And there is a resolution as an attachment in item number 22 that looks, and remember we talked about those three components of the levy and the total dollar amount. And remember I said that the total levy for this year is up about $1.4 million. But the amount that we'd be asking you to take action on is $26,958,076. That's $2,000 less than what we projected, even though it's more than what we had last year. From a projection standpoint, it's pretty spot on. $2,000 in our size budget is pretty close.
Does the resolution need to be read in its entirety?
Our district's the only one that I've been in that even does the resolution, so I think you can just, do it as presented.
I would make a motion to approve resolution file number 2025-007, effective today, tax levy adoption for 25-26, total levy of $26,958,076.
Second.
Motion by Ann, second by Bridget, to approve the 2025-26 tax levy as detailed in enclosure 22. That will be resolution number 2025-007, effective today, October 27th, 2025, in the total amount of $26,958,076. Are there any questions? And can we do a roll call again, please?
Ann?
Yes.
Bridget? Yes. Eric?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes. The 2025-26 tax levy is approved. Yeah, thank you so much for your work on that, keeping us informed along the way. It's just a masterful job that you do in keeping us educated about the motions that are going on at the state and the impact it has on us here locally. Thank you. We'll turn to the 26-27 calendar. Sonia.
Thank you. So the DPI did approve your request to start school early for the School District of Onalaska for 26-27. Seems so far away. So we did get our calendar committee together. The calendar committee has representation from each building, as well as Mr. Thierry, as well as myself. And we looked at the goal of starting as early as August 24th, but also ending May 28th. So looking at the number of teacher contract days, number of student days, conferences, PD days, and planning of that. And so as you see, what's on the screen is the calendar that we came up with, and really it's not much different. We only tweaked one day in April from a Friday to a Monday, and vice versa, from this year.
Any questions for Sonia, the administration team?
Barring none, I'll make a motion to accept the 2026-2027 district calendar outlined by Sonia and detailed in enclosure 23 calendar.
Second.
Motion by Tracy, seconded by Ann, to approve the 2026-27 district calendar as outlined by Sonia and detailed in enclosure 23 calendar. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The calendar for next school year has been approved. Thank you. And we'll stick with you for discussion about Title I agreements.
There are two Title I agreements for our parochial schools in the school district. To give you a little background, Title I funds are federal funds that help support two of our schools within our district, but they also allot funds to the parochial schools to help support those that have low-income families. And it's a separate allotment that the federal government gives them, but we are the local education agency, and so we are the ones that have to provide those funds to the to those schools. They do not give them directly to the schools. So we set these agreements up to kind of outline what they can and cannot use the funds for. We are doing it with the agreements with the schools instead of in each individual teacher that is hired, as it just feels more efficient process.
And in effect, we're the stewards of that money being funneled to those schools.
Correct.
Any questions about the agreements for Title I funds for St. Patrick's or St. Paul's elementary schools? These are on for approval.
I would make a motion to approve agreements for payment of Title I funds with St. Patrick's Elementary School and St. Paul's Elementary School as outlined in enclosures 24, specific to each school, St. Pat's and St. Paul's.
Second.
Motion by Ann, seconded by Tracy to approve the Title I fund agreements for St. Patrick's Elementary School and St. Paul's Elementary School as detailed in enclosures 24 St. Pat's and 24 St. Paul's. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And those are approved. Thank you, Senator. Now, Lori, we have an independent contractor.
Yes.
Agreement.
We are in need of a substitute speech and language pathologist for a leave that one of our speech and language pathologists is taking around mid-January, and will be for 12 weeks. And we have contracted with Jill Avalos in the past for the substitute leaves in the past, and it's been a good agreement or a good partnership with her. And so I reached out to her again to see if she had availability, and she does. So I'm bringing forth a recommendation to enter into an independent contract with Jill Avalos for that leave.
I just have a question, because you mentioned that it's for 12 weeks, but then it says in here, and maybe I'm not understanding, I apologize, it says not to exceed 60 days, but 12 weeks is it,
Well,
60 days?
it's
Or school days?
school day.
Okay. I'm like, the numbers are confusing.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's always hard to put exact dates on.
Yeah.
Because, babies don't follow calendars. all
For
the time,
sure.
so.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
Sure. Another thing you might notice, we actually are in need of 2 speech and language pathologists. And we have 2 different ways sometimes where we are able to do this, kind of dependent on speech therapists are difficult to find. And we were lucky to find 2. One prefers, and you'll see on the consent agenda on the personnel report, one is under a substitute contract, not a contract, but a substitute with the district, and then this one is different. It's an independent contract. So just a little difference in how we're able to bring these subs in. But we had 2 almost exactly at the same time, which we're lucky, I think, to be able to fill. I would make a motion to approve an independent contractor agreement for Jill Avalos to cover speech and language services for an employee on leave from approximately January 15th to April 17th, 2026, not to exceed 60 days at $82 an hour.
Motion by Ann, seconded by Eric to approve the request to enter into an agreement for an independent contractor, Jill Avalos, for speech and language services from approximately January 15th through April 17th, 2026, not to exceed 60 days at $82 per hour. Team, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Thank you, Lori. And our consent agenda. Team, are there any requests to remove items from the consent agenda for separate consideration?
Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Ann, seconded by Bridget to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. And we have no further business.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Tracy, seconded by Ann to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?